Hello everyone, I'm Alexton96 or Taylor Denno, whatever you know me by, and this is a little unexpected of me. I wasn't originally going to make a recording of this, as you can probably see from the already completed sketches above this one, but I wanted to talk about it. So I recently binged on the Adventure Time clips, all the ones that I could on YouTube, because I'm kind of cheap like that. And I watched a bit of the first season of it as a kid, but never really got into it because I thought it was weird. And one thing I still don't like are all the innuendos, especially since this is supposedly a kid's show. That aside, I love the depth of the story and how these silly characters go through a lot of character development. I know I was super late to this show, but honestly, I like being late. It gives me plenty of time to process the story without the toxic fandom, and I can watch the entire series without having to wait for a long time. I also really like how completely informal everyone is. Like, even the bad guys have such funny, casual talk like, "Yo got played, sucker!" It's really cool that nearly everyone doesn't take themselves seriously, and it helps add like a sense of relatability to each character. And unexpectedly, I found myself loving the Sour Earl of Lemongrab. To all who are unfamiliar with this guy and proceed to look him up, I am so sorry. You are not prepared for him. If you want to see a tamer version of Lemongrab just to get the gist of what he's like, I have a clip in the description below. I also have some more sketches and ideas for him on my DeviantArt, so go check it out. So when I was a kid, I only saw a tiny clip of him screaming his signature, "Unacceptable!" And I thought he was the most annoying character in the world. Never would I think he'd be one of my favorite characters, but here we are. He goes through a subtle, yet powerful character arc, and deep down he really isn't trying to hurt anyone, he's just so dissatisfied with himself and has a hard time relating to others. Of course, he does take some things a bit too far, but yeah. And his symbolism is really cool, especially after the third version of him is created, where he has to balance the two opposing Lemongrabs within him. Anyway, this is an idea if Lumpy Space Queen, or Lumpy Space Princess, took him to live with her in Lumpy Space. I'd imagine he'd bring order to the chaotic nebula, and maybe even help with the security of the Crystal Citadel, where the worst of the universe's criminals would go. I think Lemongrab's extreme punishments might be much more fitting for the worst of the worst. He learns from LSP's parents about what lumps are, and in doing so is able to create whole worlds with the space dust. This attracts the attention of Betty Gulb, the embodiment of discord and destruction, and Lemongrab has to constantly face off against a literal god to protect these planets. Maybe Betty Gulb is trying so hard to communicate with Lemongrab. Oh my goodness, cat. Maybe Betty Gulb is trying so hard to communicate with Lemongrab to make something that will help her return to normal or something. Above this drawing is a concept for an extra sword for Lemongrab's armory. Oh my word, hang on. I was thinking a tuning fork sword would be super cool to add. Perhaps after learning and getting a little more used to other people's styles, he uses the tuning fork to change the frequency of his sound sword according to the power of his enemies. I was wondering which design would look better, the plain one or the one with black and white prongs. It's cool that Lemongrab 3 keeps his opposites as black and white designs in his clothes, castle, and such, and that's what I was trying to go for with the black and white prongs. I don't know if LSP would bring any of Lemongrab's subjects to Lumpy Space. Lemongrab's castle is all empty in the future, so if he left an heir to lead them or left them alone, they don't seem to make it if they stayed in Oo. There are theories that there was another apocalypse after the Gum War, which would explain why all the familiar landmarks are desolate. Maybe LSP saved Lemongrab and his peeps last minute, and now his citizens have to adjust to the polar opposite of their previous lifestyle. I'm also not sure how old Lemongrab would be when the pup population goes to space. Maybe there can be some conflict between the unpredictable nature of the pups and his need for order. I also don't think he's immortal like Princess Bubblegum, since Lemon Hope is hinted to have died 1,000 years after the finale. And I'm not sure how Lemongrab and Lumpy Space Queen will be able to stay together because of how unfaithful she is and how overdramatic she can be. Perhaps she matures a lot by going through something like the Mountain of Matthew, or some trial like that. Either way, Lemongrab is leagues ahead of her as far as maturity. For this drawing, I wanted to really work on my grayscale to color technique, where you put in desaturated values first, and that makes the composition look much better in the end. The problem is, when you put on color, it could change the values of the piece, and I found that the layer style under color worked for this drawing. It didn't mess up with the values that I had. I don't know if other people have this issue, but sometimes when I merge layers with different styles, the style of the top layer changes to the style of the second. Or in other words, it just gets completely messed up. Sometimes it works alright when I merge multiple layers at once, but sometimes it doesn't. I'm not sure if anyone else has this issue. Anyway, thanks for watching and listening to me ramble. I don't plan on doing much more with this idea, but who knows? Talking about it helps me to kind of put it aside and move on to other ideas, which is one reason why I don't explain some of my stories in full. When I feel like I've said all I wanted to on something, then my mind often doesn't go back to that idea. Anyway, thank you all again, and I'll see you in the next one!